So what's your inspiration? What keeps you going?
I don't know. A handful of times I have tried to stop. I think I definitely know that the main thing that keeps me coming back to it or just continuing is a desire to just improve the environment or just like a desire to give other people an opportunity to do something.
All right, so we are on episode number 4 of Start Your Skate Business, and today we have a awesome guest, a friend of mine that I've known for a very long time, Shawn Beeks, who is the owner of Slapstik Skateboard, where they have where Shawn creates decks, apparel, and skate accessories. The brand tackles political and identity issues in a humorous tone, hence the name Slapstik Skateboards. Shawn has collaborated with Pusher Wheels and Nocturnal Skate Shop here in Philly. Shawn, after doing some research about you, and not only just doing research, but after like just knowing you for so many years, you're just a true artist. So Shawn, he does painting, sculptures, comics, you name it, he's just a true artist. Some things that you may not know about Shawn: he holds a master's degree in fine arts, and he is a adjunct professor at Temple University. So, with all that being said, today, very special. We're going to dive deep into what it takes to create a brand, a deck company. I know creating a deck company it's pretty popular amongst new skateboarders or just skateboarders in general because we're just like the deck is just a part of our identity in a way. We're always standing on it, we're skating it, we're designing it, we're picking out the brands that match our personalities. So a deck is really special, and I feel like it's just something that every skateboarder, whoever is like really interested in entrepreneurship, gravitates to the deck first. So with all that being said, I just want to say welcome, Shawn, and how you doing, man?
Thanks, Brett. I'm actually doing all right. I think we're about halfway through a little more than halfway through the semester at Temple, and tax season is around, so I've been real busy.
Yeah. Yeah, tax season's no fun, but it is a part of the game. So to really dive into slapstick skateboards and to, slapstick skateboards, like I mentioned in the intro, it deals with political and identity issues in a humorous tone. The graphics are really unique, really cool. And to get to know a little bit about the brand, I feel like you have to know about Shawn, the owner and the founder of Slapstick. So, Shawn, can you just explain your upbringing and how you got into skateboarding?
Yeah, I grew up in Fort Washington, Maryland, which is it's like right across the Potomac River from DC. I was only able to go skate DC maybe 2 or 3 times in the late 80s, early 90s. So I really wasn't much involved in that scene. But it was there, and like even though even like you didn't have to be in DC to be influenced by DC. Just being close to it was enough. So I started, might have been like 88, 87 or 88. I started skating, oddly, because my parents would not let me play football because they thought I was going to get hurt. So then I go into skating and really get hurt. The thing that spurred me getting into skating, I think, was there was a couple friends in the neighborhood and a few people like older kids that I just didn't know that I would see on a skateboard just randomly. It's mostly I guess it was kind of a diverse neighborhood. Like the majority of the population was just like Anglo, African American, and a big Filipino population. It was pretty rare that you saw anyone on a skateboard. So when you did, it really didn't matter who they were. You like if that was something you were into, you just gravitated towards them. So once I actually got aboard, like I was hooked on it just from like the adrenaline uh, and the creative possibilities because there weren't any rules. Like you didn't need to be on a team or anything. You just went outside and did it, and it was free once you had a board.
Yeah, that's cool, man. So This is actually like starting to, I can see like a little underlying like theme here where, you like the skateboarding, you gravitated to it because it was like no rules. We're getting into that side. And that's the part, like I feel like a lot of people like it's just like you kind of do what you want, you make what you want out of it. And
Hmm.
so what got you into art? Because I want to combine, like I want to see how you got into skating and how you got into art and then how they work together.
Yeah. Growing up, I spent a lot of time watching TV, and Saturday mornings, I want to say like around 3 o'clock, getting home from school, there were cartoons on. Um, Television at that time was like a legitimate babysitter, because they always programmed the shows when they knew kids were going to be home, either just getting home from school or waking up in the mornings. Like there were cartoons on all the time. So I was drawn to just the visuals of the cartoons, stuff like He-Man, Transformers, GI Joe. Those were the main ones that I got into. I did like Warner Brothers, and never really got into Disney stuff. And I think a little later on, when I was like a preteen, like the Three Stooges, and the slapstick comedy, which and like played a major role in what I ended up doing with artwork and graphics. But that's how I got interested in the artwork. And then after watching all that stuff for so long, you want to start to copy it, and like you just draw what you see. And I was spending all my time watching cartoons, so I started drawing all that. When my parents noticed like my interest in it, they started to expose me to other things, just taking me different places or showing me different books that I may want to draw from as well. Once I started skating, it's nothing but just consumption and destruction of artwork. So going through a magazine, all you're seeing is just visuals, and you see the artwork on the bottom of boards. You've already grown up looking at cartoons. You're going to just start drawing those graphics. And that was the initial steps of connecting skateboarding with artwork. Yeah, I started making boards in 96, long time ago. I think I was a sophomore, may have been a sophomore in undergrad. And a friend of mine, Woody, started a board company that I believe was called Pickle. He had gotten in touch or somehow hooked up with a board manufacturer, and he needed somebody to do the artwork for him. He and I were already friends, and he asked me if I'd be interested in doing some graphics, seeing as I was already skating, been skating for a long time already, and I was in the drawing and painting program at University of Georgia. So I just jumped on that opportunity knowing that I could use that as a way of combining both of my interests. I started doing some graphics for him. He had a falling out with just about everyone, just from like bad decisions in running a business in a college town. So I just asked to see if I could keep doing the boards using his supplier, just because I wanted a way to get my artwork out. And I saw this as, I wasn't really thinking that long term, like 30 years into the future, but it's like I could see this as something that I really wanted to do. So rather than wait around for someone to give me a job, I just made one.
Starting it back in 1996. Wow, that is something I did not know, how long you've been doing this. This is absolutely incredible. How did you create graphics back then?
All hand drawn, all to scale, doing hand color separations. When I started, it was under a different name because in '96 I doing a lot of in school. I was doing a lot of just research and art production and reading a lot, and all of that culminated into the creation of my first company. That would I don't even think I would. The thought of doing this company now wouldn't even cross my mind. But at the time, I started a company called Raped Incorporated that was all about capitalism. It was all just black and white imagery. Some of it just being like just Photoshop collage work, not Photoshop, photocopied collage work. some ink drawings and paintings, but it was just it was very direct. There was no humor in it.
Yeah.
But that's where I was at the time. I knew I had a lot to say, and I met up with people that, for the most part, like supported what I had to say, and and contributed to the artwork and distribution of it. It was a hard thing to sell, but somehow, just from actually not really somehow, really just from like talking, you really just make friendships with people working in skate shops, people in like skate communities. You develop friendships, and through those friendships, those can sometimes lead to like getting boards into a shop. Really, it's like your friendships do the networking for you. But that's how the board graphics started. I did that till 2001, and by that time, I'd accumulated a lot of just humorous drawings that I could not use for raped ink. I was already like, it was,
What kind of
what's that?
drawings? You said they were humorous drawings, and were they like,
Oh,
was it too offensive?
you need a balance in your life. And for so many years, I've just been doing like heavily political work, social and political commentary that was all really serious. And it drains you. So in order to balance that, I would start I get a funny idea, I make a sketch of it. Eventually, I've got like sketchbooks full of this stuff. And it leads to this running theme. I think it was called Alternate Uses for the Human Body. And that was the origin of slapstick skateboards in 2001. So I ended Raped Ink, and there was like a small overlap with slapstick starting, where it was all mainly still the black and white line drawings, but the base color that was on the board basically just had like an image of the graphic, and then almost in like a frame. It's like a classic skateboard layout where you have a framed image in the middle, and then that's on top of it was on top of a pastel color backgrounds. Black and white drawings were much simpler, much funnier. There was still like a political hint to it, but it was hidden in the color and the humor, and it sold so much better.
Yeah, so I mean, you know what? You have input so much into like just so much of your background, your upbringing into the brand of slapstick. And it's really cool and it's unique. You mentioned at the time you were doing a lot of you're doing a lot of reading. Were you working in like any social or political background at the time, or were you just like studying that?
Just studying it,
Just studying.
and I spend a lot of time just talking to people, no matter where I am. I was working as a barista. I was also working in food service, and then that led into spending most of my time working in screen printing and getting more art related jobs, so I could learn just like the processes and manufacturing of goods. But even like through in all of those positions, and really just as this has just been consistent through every job I've had. I always want to get to know the people that I'm working with. And in doing that, you just find out how diverse populations and ideas.
Yeah. So, I mean, going into like what you were just saying, like, going about like networking, getting your products into skate shops. What other methods did you use as far as networking? I know you mentioned just like getting to know the owners at shops. So you did some like pop-ins, you're just talking with them. Did you go to like any other events or anything of that sort or hold events? Did you sponsor anyone?
I did have a small team, no more than four, maybe five people, where they got from every shipment they would get like a couple free boards or a free shirt. They get basically a free piece from everything that I made, and then anything on top of that was just whatever it cost me to make. Because when you're sponsoring someone, or at least at the time when I was sponsoring someone, being such a small company, I couldn't like pay them money, but I could give them product. And I know that like a lot of companies still do this, where you can give them product at or sell them yeah, really, I guess you're kind of selling the product at the cost, and then whatever they sell for on top of that ends up kind of becoming money for them to spend. Anytime like the company was making money, like it was definitely shared, like distributed throughout everyone involved, because they are working for you and you should compensate them. And like leading through, like from Rape Inc. and throughout Slapstick, and then moving on into the future where I started working with other artists, I definitely made sure that those artists were compensated for their work through product and money. I mean, I guess the thing that like I keep going back to is you got to talk to people before all the internet, and you like before I went to like a handful of trade shows, it was just going to places and talking to people in person, so that it's not just an email or a phone call. It's like you actually see the person that makes it, and you develop a real relationship with them. So it's not just some stranger calling trying to get you to buy their stuff.
And just from my experience having a skate shop, you would come in every so often, hang out, chat, and that was just we would just have a conversation either with me, or if I had another staff member there, be talking with them. And looking at your Instagram account, you do this all the time. You go to multiple shops and you just pop in, you talk, and then also what you do is you promote it. Also, you upload a quick image of the shop on Instagram. So that's also really cool. We're kind of like going into, I guess we've been talking about marketing in a way. And
Yeah.
so while we're on marketing, what has changed within your brand from when you started? I'm sorry, changed within your marketing strategy from when you started. Let's go back to like, say, like 96, 98, and when you were sponsoring those four team riders to present day.
Back in the 90s, you had to take all those road trips. You And if you weren't able to take a road trip, people on your team, if you had a team, would serve as reps for you to go out whenever they go someplace and skate. So like it's never a good idea to sponsor like friends that live across the street or in your neighborhood, especially if you run a company. It's a good idea to have one person there, but if you're going to sponsor multiple people, make sure they're spread out, but not so far that they never meet each other. So there may have been, I don't know, like a 2 hour driving radius of shops that I dealt with around the vicinity of Athens, Georgia. And I just concentrated on that. Whenever we would take road trips to contests, usually contests, like maybe once in a while, much later on, we would do a demo with a shop we already had an account with. We travel there, but if it's a contest, like again, it's that same thing of just going into the place that's holding the event, talking to people there just to get to know them, and then you're already wearing and skating the product. So you introduce yourself, talk to them as just to talk to them as a someone to meet and not a client. If it comes up that they ask why you're there, who you're with, then you tell them. But it's not like you just walk into a shop and just go right into a sales pitch, because you don't even know if you're going to like that shop.
Yeah.
Um,
How do you pick your shops? Like
when
nowadays and back then.
Yeah, some shop owners and like some of the people that go there are just not nice people, and you don't want to be associated with that. And the only way that you'll know is from talking to those people and actually just like being there and seeing how they interact with customers. After doing that for, it may have taken like less than a year, it's like maybe 2 years or so after like a brand was established, I got a really good idea of whether or not a shop was going to be okay with what we were doing. And I actually ended up making stickers that said Raped Inc. not sold here, just to put on a door of a shop that did not sell the stuff, because we just thought it was funny. And then, like, it was true. They didn't sell our stuff, but now our name is on your door. So someone's going to see that and ask, what's this?
Did you ever
Uh,
get any comments about that from the shop owners? Being like, "Yo, what are you doing? I'm up to my shop."
no one ever got mad about it.
That's pretty cool.
Uh,
That's skateboarding for you.
yeah. And what's changed is a lot's changed.
Yeah.
People have a hard time. People have a hard time just being around each other.
In what way? What do you mean by that?
like a lot of interaction, and like I find myself falling into this, like takes place on platforms like Instagram and emails where you can contact a shop that's across the country and through emails and text messages and stuff like that, but it's nowhere near as I could call it nowhere near as effective or just real as actually meeting the people that are contacting you. I had a really good relationship with a shop out in Rockford, Illinois. That was called Ground Floor Skate Shop, and that started through a connection with Rob Williams that was running Pusher Wheels. I was doing the artwork for Pusher at the time, and Ground Floor had started getting wheels from them. The owner of that shop, this guy Eric, had planned a trip to Philly just because like we're the same age and like he valued just meeting people in person. So when he came to Philly, I made it a point to meet up with him and hang out and spend a couple of days just hanging out and skating around spots. Even though he doesn't have that shop anymore, and I'm not selling a product, like we're still really good friends. And like that's those friendships are what help maintain and really just help maintain businesses.
You know what? I can't agree with you more.
That's just become a lot harder now. So just like establishing those friendships because people don't know how to.
Yeah, absolutely. So I just wanted to comment and share one of my experiences from exactly what you just mentioned about building relationships, and they're not done through emails, it's done through face-to-face in person. Because as a shop owner and skate park owner, I get emails pretty often, emails and Instagram messages from shops, or not, I'm sorry, from brands that I have no idea who they are, and they want to get into your store to, to have their products to offer to your customers and whatnot. And a lot of these times they could be across the country, sometimes across the world. I have people from China contacting me sometimes. And most of the time, I don't like, I might open it and take a look at it, but most of the time it's just like almost like, I don't want to say trash, but like I don't really go into detail if I don't know who the company is. So, like you said, like you can send out, like if you're a new brand and you're sending out emails, yes, that's a good way to do it, just to be proactive. However, like you mentioned, like being there in the shop, it is way different when a brand contacts me on email and I don't respond, and then they show up in the shop, and then we build up a relationship that way. Oh my gosh, it's so different. Like in that case, it's like I want to have their product in the shop. Like it's a lot different. It's email is more like transactional, I feel like. It's just like,
Yeah,
let's just do it. And then in person, it's just like it's more emotional. It's like you want to support. You both want to. It's a mutual thing. It's like you both want to support each other. Yeah. So yeah, I really like that example that you provided, that provoked that idea or memory that I have. Anything else that you do differently now, or that has progressed your marketing?
I still pay a lot of attention to politics and not just politics, but just what's going on in the world. I have, when was it? I think it was in 2016. Yeah, it was around 2016, 2017 that I I converted slapstick skateboards to slapstick skateboard art. I know part of it was just being exhausted from doing all the artwork and just essentially just doing everything, and noticing that it was the same people that were making graphics for everyone, homogenizing like what skateboarding looked like. And I remembered that happening when I started in like the late 80s, where you only have like four or five people doing graphics. Honestly, it was just boring. I saw that again happen in the early 2000s when like Alien and Habitat got big, and that whole like Alien Workshop, Photoshop, paint and tape collage thing just got huge. It's like I could see why it was appealing, but like very quickly it reaches a point where it's just everywhere and so mass produced that it just becomes wall paint. And that was happening again. It just happens like every few years. So in 2016, 2017, like I made a conscious effort to promote artists that just you just don't see their work. And I knew so many of them through like art schools, art scenes, and through skateboarding specifically, where they're making fantastic work, but no one ever sees it because they never get an opportunity to show it. So that was a major shift. Kind of similar to what happened when there was a collapse in the skate industry and like all the money just kind of fell out. Big companies collapsed, and then you had all these smaller companies coming up and being started. Um, because I've never functioned or had the ability to function as like a big company that allows me to adapt very quickly to changes that I see coming in the industry. So I can, like in a sense, make a change before they happen and always stay ahead. Most recently, I think this started last year. I just stopped getting skateboards made, converting the slapstick to just SOS, which translates to save our ship, but that last S could mean so many different things, where it could be save ourselves, save our scene, whatever really you want that S to be, but it needs to be saved. And I felt like that was a good reflection of what I felt needed to happen, where there were just too many skateboards coming out of the pandemic and issues with tariffs and supply chains. Companies were freaking out because they couldn't get boards made. So once they got a chance to, they made too many. And now you got all these shops that are just flooded with product, overstocked, and they're going to be overstocked for a long time just because of back orders and commitments to buying stuff that they thought they were going to sell, thinking that that pandemic market was going to continue, and it didn't. People went back to work and they stopped skating. So with all this overproduction, I needed to find a way of making use of things that were just tossed aside. Found out that my manufacturer just has like almost like a warehouse full of like boards with slight imperfections that the majority of people would never notice. And I can get my graphics printed on them for like a fraction of the cost, pass on that savings to shops and skaters so that people who can't afford like a $70 board can now get one for like at least like half the price. And I'm not making more stuff. I'm just using what's already there.
Really impressive stuff. And I think the SOS, I don't think I know that it's a really good cause. Like you mentioned, there's so many things that go into the reasonings why shops should have it. And also like skaters, like you mentioned, like skaters really don't want to pay $70, and now boards are like $80. For a skate shop to buy a board from a distributor, it's around like $50, especially if it's
Yeah,
like a high, like if it's a big brand like Baker or Anti-Hero. It's like how can we buy a shop or a deck for 55 bucks and then resell it for like 80? It does makes no sense.
yeah,
So yeah, having those price points, and then it's just great. So you can easily, so it's, I don't want to say easily, but it's easier to sell to individuals that just want to buy a deck just from you, or sell to shops because they don't have to put out as much. Yeah, so it's a great way to kind of pivot with everything going on, with price increases all across the board.
yeah. It's it, I realize that it's not something that every shop wants to do because anyway, someplace like Zoomies or Tactics or someplace, people go there to spend that much money. It's not like broke people are going to Zoomies.
Yeah.
But I know that core skaters that are I can't even just say it's just core skaters, but like skaters that go through a board maybe once a week, once or twice a week, and they get into a bind where they just need something. This is a solution. When it started, like a handful of shops were buying a lot at a time, partially just because they jumped on the opportunity to have a product that people could afford, But then as time goes on, like the quantity decreases because they don't want that 30 or $33 board just like cutting into the sales of a $70 board, which I totally understand. Like your shop should not be filled with $35 boards. I'm not there to like destroy an industry. I just
Right.
want stuff in there for people who can't afford the $70 board.
Where do you find your most sales as far as like people buying your decks? Is it on your website or do you find it more through like people purchasing it through skate shops?
It's shops.
Hmm.
And like I intended it for it to be through shops. They get the first calls. They get like I guess like the top tier quality from those shipments. Because it's all imperfections, is like I don't choose what they send. So I mean I can give them like a size range and hope that they'll send it, but it doesn't mean like I have no way of predicting what's going to come. Those some of those imperfections are very noticeable. That stuff I'm not going to sell to a shop. Those boards end up getting signed and put online. So you can go to a shop and get one for the retail cost, or you can like I guess in order to keep the company going like this, I've got to find a way of selling off the ones that have like more major imperfections. So those end up getting signed and placed online where you can buy like a batch of two or three boards. You're essentially paying like retail costs for two boards, but you're getting that signed one for free just so that helps me pay like administrative fees and stuff just to keep the company going, operational cost.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I noticed that on your site where you had that special. I was just like, I actually didn't know that was like behind it, but or like the thought process behind it. But that's really interesting because when I was on your line on your site, I'm like, wow, this like you could buy a board and get another board. Like that's really cool. So as
It's
we're talking about this, how did you go about just finding a distributor for your skateboards, or I should say a manufacturer? I apologize, because I mean I'm sure you had many of them throughout the years.
manufacturers. No, been working with the same one.
Really? Wow. How about
Yeah,
that?
yeah. I've had other manufacturers approach me, um, and whenever that happens, like again, I'm just going to do the research on them. I'll test out a board to see what they're like. But I this all goes back to building relationships. I have such a strong relationship with the manufacturer I've been working with for over 20 years that I can do this SOS thing. And like it cuts down like the timing of production. Like I get stuff really fast now. Um you just if I jump to a different manufacturer, I would have to go through this whole process of establishing another relationship and like learning how to communicate with them, shipping and production timelines that are never on time. So now I've got to figure out how long that delay is really going to be, the date that I have to tell them in order to get it when I need it, and just a lot of weird stuff like that. I think I've just been fortunate to work with the same person, and kind of just ultimately it helps that like I can legitimately say that we are friends. Like we have conversations about things that have nothing to do with skating, just because like we're interested in what's going on in each other's lives.
Very interesting. The 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 word that keeps popping up throughout this our conversation is relationship. Relationship with people, skate shops, and now the manufacturer. And relationships are really important. And I never really thought, well, I don't really order from manufacturers. I have in the past when I had a
Mm-hmm.
skate brand, and going through that process was definitely challenging, to say the
Yeah.
least. But a relationship is really important. And you mentioned that there's a lot of communication between you and whoever you're working with, and I'm sure you have to deal with multiple personalities and adapt to the different people and the way they are in order to, sustain a healthy relationship so your products can still sell. It's not really a question. It's just something that kind of stood out to me. That's really interesting about that. relationships, friendships, and all that within skateboarding. And skateboarding is such a social thing anyway. So it's just like it kind of
Yeah,
seems like natural to do that.
yeah. I mean, you can start skating by yourself, but I mean, if you stick with it, there's no way you're going to stay by yourself. You're just naturally going to seek out other people to do it. And just watching people get introduced to skating at a park or at a plaza, there is always like fear and intimidation that new people coming into it think that they're not going to be accepted, they're going to get judged, they're going to get clowned. You don't get clowned until you're actually part of a community. But people coming in is like they want more people to skate. They want more people to experience like how exciting and fun it is.
What's your
So why would you not, yeah, like why would you not want people to share that experience? It's fun and it hurts.
That's the beauty of it. It feels good to hurt
Yeah,
sometimes.
yeah. Not when you're hitting 50 though.
Man. So what's your inspiration? What keeps you going?
I don't know. A handful of times I have tried to stop. I think I definitely know that the main thing that keeps me coming back to it or just continuing is a desire to just improve the environment or just like a desire to give other people an opportunity to do something. I don't need to do this anymore, but I guess like before it was giving artists an opportunity to get their artwork out and learn about how to really just function or get an introduction to functioning as a professional artist. Right now it's giving or continuing to give people the opportunity to keep skating or start skating so that like making boards affordable so that it's not just money that's preventing them from doing it. So yeah, it's really just offering just opportunities to people to do something that they want to do.
Yeah, and I gotta say, just from knowing you and just being aware of slapstick for several years now, I want to say easily, I've known slapstick for 10 years. I want to say like you're a force that can't be stopped because the pandemic happened. I remember you closed down slapstick, you stopped, and then as soon as that happened, like the riot, it came right back. And I remember that the graphic gritty and standing on the cop car, everything's burning around them in Center City. I gotta say, like that was a graphic that everyone was talking about. Like at least in the shop that like in my skate shop. But we had one in the Elkins Park location, or we had a couple in Elkins Park and a couple in West Philly, and everyone stopped at that. And then whoever bought it, those people like used it as wall hangers. They didn't even skate it.
Yeah.
That was insane. Did you get a lot of feedback on that? A lot of comments on that graphic?
I never know how to respond or yeah, I don't really know how to react to that. I just when I get these ideas, I try to make it as quickly as I can and get it out. But like, of course, it's got to be up to my standards. But I try to get out like a quality image as quick as I can. Once like all those boxes arrive, I just got to get rid of them. And I don't know that I really spend any time like checking to see how much people like it or what people are saying about it. Like there are comments that come up on like Instagram and stuff, but you can't really judge how well something is doing or how it's really being received based on how it performs on the internet. So hearing that people were that psyched on it, in a lot of ways it's news to me.
Well, how do
Yeah.
you judge? Like, how do you judge a board that like sells real quick, or it's just like, you go into a shop one day, it's there, and the next day they don't have any more of your boards. Like, how do you judge like the amount of like
Um,
the quantity that you're giving the shops and whatnot, and what's moving and what's not?
I let the shop like tell me
Hmm.
if they say it's moving quick and they need more, and I have more, I can drop off another batch. And there are times when like the quantities are starting to get low, and this is very rare. That if there are like multiple shops that are requesting them, I've got to figure out a way to like evenly distribute them so one place just doesn't have all of them, because I want to make sure that people in one zip code have just as much access to it as people in another one, where that demand is probably equal. Like, like so much of that depends on just talking to shop owners and finding out how many are actually selling and who's buying it. Because the last thing I want to happen is a shop to just re-up on an order where they get 12 the first time, and then they think getting another 12 they're going to go right through them. And it's like, well, how do you know you're going to get rid of these 12? Because a lot of these people may just be getting them to put on the wall, and once it's on the wall they don't get another one unless you're actually seeing them out in the street being destroyed. You probably shouldn't get another 12. So I'm just going to give you 6 and we'll see how that goes.
Nice. Yeah, you know what? I noticed like, and this might be because you've been doing it for so long, but you have like a laid back approach to it. I feel like you know everything, what to do, the marketing side, to get in the shops, building the relationship, the manufacturer side, all that stuff you know, but it's just like you're just chilled back with it. You're like, yeah, I got this. And you just have like you just let it work. You let Slapstik do the work and you go in when needed. And that really that really only comes from experience. Like you have to be
Yeah,
doing this for many years because anyone that is starting up a deck company, like they're not going to be laid back. And I can almost guarantee they're going to be like really pushing or pushing to be in the different shops and pushing for people to sell their product and whatnot. And it's quite opposite for you. It seems like, you know, you've done all that and it's a much more laid back approach to it. One thing I want to ask you though, with all the knowledge that you have, is what is so if I am a in short, if I am a new skate brand and I want to create a deck company, just decks, and
mm-hmm.
could you tell me like the step, can you walk me through each step to get started? Like, all right, I got this concept, I kind of got an art design. How do I get that on a board now?
Okay. I
Or
actually
does
worked on no, I worked on this response, like breaking it down into relatively easy steps.
Mhm.
Um, and then when you were asking that question, like I have a much more direct response to it. I'm going to go through the long one first.
All right.
You need to research who's going to be buying this board. Are you making a board just because you want to skate it, or are you making a board for other people? You need to figure out exactly who that audience is. You need to find out what that audience already buys. If there's an overlap between what they're already buying and what you want to make, move to the next step. What is it that you want to say with your product that's different from everyone else's that this audience is already buying? Because otherwise, they can just get what's already made. They've already got an established relationship with it. Why would they take a risk and get something new that looks similar? So figuring out what you want to say, if you can get past that point, you got to figure out where you're going to get it made. And just that the resourcing and production is often like the biggest obstacle. If you have the money, or if you can secure the funds to do this, get samples from multiple people, talk to each of them, talk to people who have worked with them to find out how reliable they are. Because the last thing you want to do is invest all this money in getting something made and then having it fall through and not being able to get your money back because it was like some startup company that did not do their work to make sure that they were going to get a product out, and now you've lost money and everyone loses money on that. Once you get all that worked out, then you can figure out what to call it. If you can get past that point, then you got to deal with um, filing for taxes, getting a business license. You're going to have to make this legit because you've already put all this work into it. The last thing you want to do is do all this work, start trying to sell to shops, and then have a shop tell you, we can't do this because you don't have a tax ID number and we do our taxes right. The short version of that is, why are you doing this? And list all the reasons why. You basically make what I really just call like a shit list. It's just all the things that people, all the negative responses to it. And if you can come up with like realistic, legitimate reasons to counter those arguments, then do it. And like I have a similar I have a similar approach to teaching, where like I'm teaching painting right now, and or it's typically drawing, but right now it's painting, where people come up with these ideas and stuff that they want to do, and it's like it's great if you want to do that, but you're going to have to explain why you're doing it. It can't just be because you felt like doing it. Like, you're paying a lot of money to go to school. This is an investment. Can you defend your work? And if you can't, you shouldn't make it.
Yeah, I like that. I like that a lot. And there's a book that I like to read that it's called Start with Why. I read that a couple of
Mm-hmm.
times. Yeah, so kind of like what you said. Before you start a brand, before you start a company, start with why. Why are you doing this? That's really important. I like the research, the budget, and then coming up with the brand name. So when you're coming up with a budget, I know like there's some people that are just super eager to just get started. What would be like the minimum amount someone you think would need to get started today if they wanted to get a shipment of boards? And you also mentioned a business license. So I want to know like the minimum amount, and then to get the business license, not worry about that, but do you need a business license to even purchase the boards from the manufacturer in bulk?
Not anymore.
Not
You
anymore?
can contact, like, I know probably about a half dozen people in places where you can get boards made of just whatever project or idea you have. You can easily get like anywhere from 25 to 50 boards made. And if you want that for just like a personal project, like you just want your artwork on a board or photographs or something, plan to put aside $1,000 to cover the cost of production, the cost of shipping, to get the stuff out for distribution. That'll also include the cost of promoting it, and it'll cover a little bit of what could possibly go wrong. If you want to start a board company or a brand, do not start with boards. T-shirts, I'm sorry, stickers, T-shirts, and then boards, because boards are going to be the most expensive thing. And if your boards suck, if the artwork sucks, if you start off with stickers, that's maybe like a $40 investment where you can test it and see if it'll actually work before you spend like $1,000.
Nice. Yeah, having a proof of concept is really important. Starting off low, working your way up higher. Yeah, a lot of companies, and I'm just trying to think about one as an example. I think not skate, Shape Jump, underneath the Baker Boy
Mm-hmm.
distribution, started out as, I don't know what they started out, but they were not making decks or grip tape. I think they were just making nothing really. I think they were just saying that. And then they came
Yeah,
up.
yeah. It was just a skit, and like Piss Drunk started off that same way.
Yeah.
But an idea has the ability of becoming something material that
Yeah.
that can actually turn into a brand.
Yeah. So definitely start small, not a big investment, work your way up. Very cool. So we're coming up to the end here. So what are you up to nowadays? I know you said you're an adjunct professor at Temple. Are you doing
Um,
anything with your students with skateboarding?
no, uh, I actually don't talk about skating much in class
Okay.
unless like some skater in the class brings it up. I'm there to teach them about design,
Hmm.
and really just how to make an image with meaning. As far as like the teaching goes, I'm working more in like the drawing and painting department after painting for over 20 years. Like, this is my first semester of actually teaching people how to paint with oils, which has been an experience. I'm getting more into the administrative work and logistics of how our programs are run, making an effort to try to update it so that you don't have students coming out with nothing but debt and no jobs. I want to get them prepared to actually work before they graduate. So a lot of that is just exposing them to all the different areas of employment in the arts that are never brought up in art school. It's like when a piece of artwork is made, someone's got to know how to pack it, how to display it, how to preserve it, how to track it in inventories, how to sell it. Like all these things these days, the artist that actually made the work needs to know how to do because of like the internet. You don't really need a gallery anymore. You can do all this yourself, but you can't do it if you don't know how to do it. I'm trying to get incorporated into an art degree. Yeah, that seems to be taking up most of my time now.
Yeah. Now that we're wrapping things up, I just want to ask where can people find you? Or really, before I even ask that question, is there anything else that you want to mention that maybe like some critical advice to any new entrepreneur out there starting a brand? I know you mentioned a ton, but is there any last minute things that you have on mind?
Yeah, whenever you engage with someone, make it a conversation and not a pitch. How are you doing? You've been asking me questions this whole time. Like, how are you doing?
I am doing fantastic. The Foundry's doing fine, and I'm excited to have this new. I want to say it's not really a company, but it's more of providing business information to entrepreneurs. And that is what's truly making me happy. I started out the Foundry as far as like it really started at Skate the Cellar back in the day, which you skated.
I remember that.
So it started out there, but it was like that place got created just because of like the passion of skateboarding and wanting to share it with friends. And those friends, my friends like extended beyond just my immediate group that I opened it up with and exposed me to people like you, Jesse Clayton, so many other people throughout the industry, Brandon John at Nocturnal. And then it created the Foundry, which also allowed me to pass on my passion even to a greater audience by teaching skateboarding. And now I feel like I learned all this business information throughout the years. And, I wanted to go into franchising and franchise Skate the Foundry. I really got into all that. I had a franchise attorney, documents of the process of how to operate Skate the Foundry. And I got towards the end of it. Well, like right before I could franchise, and I figured I don't really want to do this. I'd rather just give this information out to the world and let other people like do that. With skateboarding, always like everything's on a rise and decline, and sometimes some people are saying skateboarding's on a decline at the moment. Some people are saying it's flat. Some people, I don't know what it's doing at the moment, but
Mm-hmm.
and truthfully, I don't really care because I personally love skateboarding and I want to promote skateboarding and get more people into skateboarding. And I don't want to see shops closing. I had to close down
Yeah.
one of my shops, and over the years, we both have seen so many shops come and go. And I want to provide information for shops to succeed and any new entrepreneur that wants to do whatever they want to do in skateboarding. I want to be able to provide them information that will lead to success. And there's not a lot of business information for skateboarders. There
Yeah.
used to be Transworld Business, that magazine, which like only like shops would receive and like Zoomies would receive. But I loved it. No one read it at Zoomies when I worked there. I would just take it home and just read it and learn about the industry. And I don't think that there's no place that does that. From even when I had to like when I was trying to open up the new Skate the Foundry, it's like I wanted to find more information within the skate industry, and it was so hard. It was
Yeah.
practically impossible. I had to do my own research, and I feel like that information that I've learned and, information that and other people know, people within the skateboard industry, if we share that knowledge, like, I think it would just only progress skateboarding and really help everyone out. And business is fun. It doesn't have to be super stressed out. Like, it is a creative process, and no matter what field you're in. So that's what I've been up to, man. I just been like, that's what
Okay.
I'm really excited about. And that's why I created this website called Start Your Skate Business. And the reason why I wanted to have you on the show, because I want to have a mix of different people and different topics. And, skateboard graphics, or I'm sorry, skateboard decks and hard goods is a very big topic within skateboarding.
Uh, you reminded me of actually something that was really important, especially with the changes in the industry and shops and how they're staying in business now. The most successful shops that I've seen recently that have opened up in the past few years have been crossovers or hybrids, where they don't just sell skate stuff. It's like down the street, there's like a skate shop that primarily serves coffee, like a 50-50 split.
Hmm.
So you have a coffee shop and a skate shop. Another one is like having a skate shop that has art supplies. A long time ago, when I was in undergrad, Amped in Athens sold tons of just sandals. Had nothing to do with skateboarding, but you do this so that you're not reliant on one model or just one source of income. Because skaters have like overlapping interests, if you can find those in like two interests that you're like really invested in, and that that other skaters are invested in, use that as a model to build a shop from. Just so like because like skating just ebbs and flows, it's going to crash and it's going to come back. But there are things that may ebb and flow as well, but not along the same wavelength. So that like I can't really do like you end up with like business models like this, so that you're never flatlining at the same time.
Mm, yeah. No, that's a really great information. And I also see I think I've been to a couple shops that you mentioned the coffee and skateboarding, which are two like completely different industries, but they do work hand in hand. But also I've seen shops that are somewhat in the same industry as like far as like skateboard they sell, and then they also sell like roller skates and then also like roller
Yeah,
blades and things of that sort, which is also like cool too. But I know like skateboarders are they could be picky, you know what I mean? They're like, oh, that's not a
yeah.
true skate shop or something like that.
There,
But you know what? I think that is slightly changing just because of like how many there's just so many skateboarders out there. And I think that core mindset of like what's cool, what's not isn't really too relevant anymore. I feel like that's kind of like our generation, but like the kids these days coming up, like, I don't know, the 12-year-olds now, I don't think they care too much. But then again, I'm not a 12 year
they
old. I
don't
know I'm
care.
like teaching them and Skate the Foundry and all, but like I don't
Yeah,
really know their world that much. But yeah. Um,
it's like those kids don't care, and 45-year-olds that have been skating forever, who grew up in a time where it was so uniform, they don't care. Well, I mean, like they care in a sense where like they want to be able to go to a shop that actually wants that 45-year-old to shop there, and a
mhm,
core shop isn't inviting to a 45-year-old.
mhm. Yeah,
You going to buy a work shirt there? No, but like they're just because as skateboarding gets older and the consumption of the consumers of it get older, there just need to be more places for people to go to get it. It just can't be uniform.
for sure. Well, Shawn, I just want to say thanks so much for coming on episode number
Yeah.
4. So cool. For people who want to find your products and search it, can you list like your website and your social media channels? If someone wants to directly contact you, if you don't mind sending out giving your email, or you don't have to if you don't want to. If they contact you through other platforms, that's good too. But can you list those out for me?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's pretty simple. It's Slapstik Skateboard Art. That's slapstikskateboardart.com. Slapstick Skateboard Art on Instagram. The same things with Gmail. The thing is, when you type in slapstick, remember to leave out the C.
Yes.
I don't know what you're going to get if you type it in with a C, but it's misspelled for a reason.
Very cool. Well, Shawn, I just want to say thanks very much, man. I really appreciate you being here. I learned a lot, and I hope everyone listening also takes away something that helps them out in creating their brand.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
We got to talk. We got to talk about your art school experience.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll get to that. We'll get to that. We'll get a session. We'll get a
Okay.
session.
All right. I'll come see you.
All right. We'll get a session and we'll chat.
All right.
All right, cool. Well, thanks, Shawn. I appreciate
Thanks
it.
again.
Yeah, you got it, man. Thank you.
All right. See you.
See ya.